All right, ladies and gentlemen, time to introduce our panel to you. Can I get everybody to stand up real quick? Let's all stand up. It's our last session. Let's stand up, full of energy. When I introduce this panel one by one, our moderator, let's give them a round of applause. Can we do that? All right, up first, please welcome our moderator, Katie Ristok, CEO of Clean Tech Estonia. Give her a round of applause. You're welcome. Next, we've got Carl Jusip Patel, co-founder of Raiku. Give a round of applause. Yeah. Next, we got Kilulit, CSO of Mycene. All right. And last but not least, Shatia Hong, investment manager, head of Ignite at Elevate VC. Give them all a big round of applause. Thank you, guys. You can take your seat. The panel is yours.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Really great to be here. So today we're going to be talking about how we can increase the efficiency in resources and energy by using clean technologies. My name is Kaidi Ristok. I'm from the Estonian Clean Tech Association. What we do is that we really help Estonian clean tech companies to scale not only in Estonia, but of course globally. And those ties that we're creating between Asia and Europe here at Switch today and more globally, it's amazing because we do need to scale clean technologies as fast as we can. Today we're going to get a broad spectrum of how we can transform different industries for increased efficiency by using clean technologies. We're going to take an investor perspective. We do need to finance it, right? Then we're also going to look at the construction industry, a huge pollutive industry that we can definitely make more efficient and more sustainable. And we're also going to look at packaging. So with me today, we have three awesome panelists. We have Gia from Elevate VC, who's their head of Ignite program, and who is a deep tech investor. Clean tech, to a large extent, is science-based, called deep tech. Gia, fun fact, has spent some weeks in Estonia working with Estonian clean tech companies. So Gia can give us this perspective of deep tech and clean tech development between Asia and Europe. Thank you for joining us. We have with us also Killu, who is the chief scientific officer and co-founder of Mycene. Mycene, of course, a company active in secondary materials, using waste and mycelium material to make insulation materials. And our third panelist, Karel, who is the co-founder of Raiku. Raiku, the company that is revolutionizing sustainable packaging. They take wood and make it into a very efficient, both in resource and energy-wise, into packaging that replaces fossil-based packaging materials. So together we're going to try to look at what are the trends in sustainable ways of using resources and energy. First, I would like to go to you, Gia, to hear your perspective on why, from an investor's point of view, why has it become such a key focus to develop and to invest into resource and energy efficiency in today's world, and perhaps also compare the European versus the Asian perspective on this thing?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jia Hong from Elevate VC. We are a deep tech early stage startup investment fund, venture capital fund. I run Ignite, which invests in the earliest stage, which includes even pre-incorporation founders. First thing I want to say is thank you so much for having me on this stage. Kadi, my old friend, Carl, Kilu. I hope you're having a good time, and Tere Tulimash in Singapore. I think one of the first things to consider in the concept of energy and resource efficiency is that we often forget that in the transition side of things, it's not just about making things, it's also about how we use things. And when we use energy, that's where the efficiency picture comes in as a huge consideration. One of the concepts that people often overlook is primary energy fallacy. And people often think that we need to make things so efficient to compete with fossil fuels. But what we don't realize is that fossil fuels lose about 50-60% of its embedded energy before the residual is the useful energy. So what we truly need to be efficient at is to replace the 40% of where we used to consume in fossil energy. Now, from the perspective of Europe and Asia, I think there's two key different angles to it. I think in Europe, with the Ukraine war, there has been a renewed interest and focus on energy independence. And when it comes to energy independence, again, it's not just about supply. How can you supply and create and generate more energy for independence? A lot of times, independence comes from the demand side. What is demand efficiency? How do I do the same with less? And it's exactly these efficiency solutions that evolve and go to market through new technologies that make a difference. And from a startup perspective, these are the winners that investors are looking at, because it changes the benchmark, it changes the baseline energy requirement or resource requirement to do the same thing or even to do more. From a Asia perspective, it really goes down to cost. Energy efficiency solutions and resource efficient products and services simply means that you can still earn a profit margin and be a profitable business by delivering efficiently, and then you can go to market in a region where cost is the most sensitive decision-making factor. So that's the key differences between the two. And I think both regions have a lot to learn from each other, both from the startup perspective and from the policy perspective.
Just to follow up, perhaps, you as an investor, you're constantly on top of the biggest trends in clean tech and deep tech more broadly. What would you say in clean technologies? What is the kind of missed opportunity at the moment that we should look at right now?
Yeah. Missed opportunity, in my opinion, is, and this is a bit counterintuitive from Deputy Foreign Minister's speech about not being boring. I think the grid is a boring but super overlooked field that requires a lot of innovation. Now, it may not mean the existing grids, but it could mean what the future of grid connection or off-grid connection looks like, or grid replacement looks like. I think there's still a bit of space to go in terms of innovation and deployment, and everyone should get on board on what the future grid looks like.
Interesting. Thank you so much. But now looking to you, Killu, Mycene is a beautiful example of turning waste into value. So could you just walk us through your technology? How does it work and how does it really contribute to resource efficiency?
Yeah, thank you, Kathy, for the endorsement. Indeed, I wonder how many people in the audience even know what mycelium-based materials are. I have some samples with me, so later you can come and feel and ask questions in case you're interested. But let me walk you through quickly through the process. So we start with wood industry leftovers, such as wood shavings, sawdust, or other types of lignocellulosic materials. These are the main substrates to grow mycelium, which is the root structure of fungi. And the mycelium is a fabulous material. It acts as a natural binder. It grows through the woody biomass and turns it into a solid, lightweight composite that can be used in construction or design applications. So in terms of resource efficiency, I would say that we upcycle waste materials that would otherwise be burned or downcycled. Secondly, we also use very energy efficient processes because mycelium can grow in 25 degrees. And thirdly, we end up with having fully biodegradable materials that are carbon negative and that can be returned to nature at their end of life.
And you're doing this not only Estonia. You're I can see you on global stages here and there. How do you use this advantage of coming from a small country as an innovator? Is it an advantage?
Absolutely. I mean, I think biomaterials are the kind of the overlooked ones, and the huge opportunity as well for Singapore. I believe also biotech has a lot to offer in terms of, let's say, waste management and also innovations with regards to increasing, let's say, bio-based solutions and having them applied in packaging, in construction, and also other industries.
Yeah, and by the way, if you want to see a real product made out of mycene's material, then you can just go to the Estonian Business Hub here in Singapore. So if you ever have a meeting there, you'll see some chairs made out of mycelium and you can actually sit on them. But turning to you, Carl, so Raiku is, of course, taking on this huge and super inefficient at times industry that is packaging, right? Both from energy perspective, but also from the resource perspective. So can you tell us just what do you change? How do you make it more efficient there?
Yeah, so I think everybody in the audience knows that packaging sucks, and it's the main thing what is in your garbage bins. You put packaging in there. So it's a global infrastructure, the packaging material. And mainly you have, now everybody knows that bubble wrap is super bad. So the companies are now turning into paper. But paper has even higher carbon footprint than plastic bubble wrap, what they don't talk about. So for example, this material, what you see going around, it's also wood-based. But now this is done without any chemicals whatsoever, because if people can't manage packaging, then we need to use materials that the nature can manage itself. So if you throw something on the ground, the nature will absorb it again and put it into the circle. And our process is 1,000 times faster than paper production. It reduces 98% the energy that is needed to produce the same amount of packaging. So here we're talking now about like some radical change. Like in Singapore, you import at least 50% of your water. So now this material production, it reduces 99.9% the water consumption to produce this material compared to paper. So you can actually produce this material on this island, whereas you can't produce paper because it takes 5 to 7 years to establish this factory. So this is the change what we're talking about, that a new biomaterial is not a hippie topic, that this is a very niche product for very niche sectors. Clean tech means that you're more efficient in certain processes. And if you're more efficient, then it also means that you can compete with the pricing. That was something that you mentioned, that this region is looking at pricing. Every region in the world is looking at pricing. So actually, you need to compete with the pricing. The only thing is that it takes time to scale up these things. Paper or plastics, they have, 70 years ahead of the curve. They've optimized their processes. They've invested billions into being more efficient. So it's really hard to, compete with industries. So we need funding and so on. But that's another topic.
Yeah, but you mentioned a very important topic. I think more and more I hear on the clean tech and deep tech stages around the world talk about how the green premium is dead. How do you look at that topic, actually? Let's just zoom out maybe from your concrete technology and look at what are the trends. Can you still sell with green premium? How do you look at that? And maybe you can comment on first, but I would really like to hear Gia's perspective as well on that.
You have to take the sustainability out of the equation. You're not selling your products with sustainability angle. That's the most crucial part of this thing. When I'm talking to the companies, even like Louis Vuitton or these kind of brands who are our customers, then they say Carl, you tick my sustainability box, but I want it because it looks nice. So, and it protects as well, of course. So you have to go with it at an angle that there is no green premium. It's just a new status quo, and you have to find efficiency in there to even make it even cheaper than the current alternatives on the market. Okay, you have to look at it at a 10-year, 15-year perspective and convince the economy as well that you can do it. But that's the angle that I would go at. It's a nice add-on, but function and price needs to be there.
Yeah, Kilu.
Can I also add to that? I mean, of course, for us in the construction industry, being one of the most conservative ones, pricing is important as well, price and performance. However, in Europe, we have those regulatory tailwinds, supporting also sustainable solutions. So this is, of course, important to support that transition on the policy side.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, regarding construction, if you're not using sustainable materials, I mean, you're going to pay more because you're going to get taxed on. So that's the invisible Adam's hand coming into the play here. That you're changing. You have to change kind of like what people are using. So the regulations are really pushing the sector for innovation as well. Yeah.
As they should, right? But Gia, you as an investor, you also have that kind of guiding hand. You can give the financial means or not to companies. So how many times, let's say out of 10, you're looking at a company saying, awesome technology, we definitely need it in the world, but the Excel says no?
This is a challenging question because I think even Excel spreadsheets have versions and they change with time. I think companies go to market in phases, right? And at the start, the green premium is the pricing from the buyer's side, the premium that they pay as a buyer. But ultimately, as Carl, you mentioned, you're doing a business. Whatever your product is, the goal is to serve a function better or priced better to serve the same function. That's how the business has relevance. And I almost see it as that's how the business has the right to exist. And then you fight for the right to thrive going forward. So the spreadsheet looks different. It will always cost a bit more at the start just from economics of scale, right? And that's where a bit of flexibility, creativity, good business development teams, understanding of your customers help you secure your early contracts. But in the end, from the investor perspective, in the long run, is this a sustainable business, not from like the green sustainable business, but can this business function because it has the right to exist and the right to scale going forward?
So you're looking at a longer perspective, actually, and that's probably in transforming industries. It's a tough question because on one hand, we need to look at the kind of short-term scaling opportunities, but at the same time, we need to make sure that in long term, it's a sustainable way of building a business and growing a long-term success. From company's perspective, how do you bring the long and short term together for you? Do you see that your investors are supporting that, or is that a challenge that you need to cope with day to day as well?
Yeah, I mean, that depends a lot on if I go first, but that depends a lot on the industry you're working in. So if you're working in clean tech, then you only have long perspective, I would say, because it takes freaking long to build a absolutely new process from start. Like everybody told me from the beginning, Carl, you're going into the hardware industry, you're developing a new technology, it will take 5 years to develop the new tech. I'm like, no, come on, we can do it in 1 or 2 years. No, it took us 5 years. So you need to find investors that are looking for these kind of solutions as well and can see the long perspective of it. Because, for example, climate goals in Europe are until 2050 to reach net zero. That means you have, for this sector, you have for 25 next years, there will be incentives and massive financial push as well. This year, Europe said 100 billion will go into clean tech industries because we have the solutions, but we need to scale them up. So the investors in this sector, they can just be sure that these guys will have market for the next 25 years. So they're playing the long game. If you go into the AI sector, they're playing the short game. Like you have exits or like this 100 million ARR happening in 1 year now and super fast like exits. So you're playing a totally different game, but it's another subject because AI is massively taking energy. So, but let's not go into that topic. So, in my short reply, then find the investors that are aligned with your vision.
Yeah. But you mentioned very well that the policymakers actually do also align the investors and the money in the direction of policies. Perhaps, Kilo, you could comment on what kind of policies are the best for clean tech companies? What supports you the best? Is it more like setting general goals like climate neutrality by 2050? Or is it very concrete little sectoral policies in construction industry that you need? What is it that the policymakers should do if they want to move the scalability of clean tech faster now?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Where to start? Always transforming like huge old industries, it takes time, takes a lot of lobbying as well. I believe in general, we need regulatory frameworks that would endorse circular materials, would like advocate the transition to more using of bio-based solutions. So, but they cannot be somehow vague. So they need to have certain targets and also support the collaborations between like cross-sector, let's say, turning the old industries and also the startups into working together so that they can implement those innovative solutions and test them out, and then that would also influence the regulatory landscape. Yeah.
Yeah, I would maybe add here as well that if the Green Deal came out in Europe, so that was 5 years ago, then everything was very vague. The only goal was that we need to get net zero by 2050, and we need to be minus 50% carbon by 2030. And then for 2-3 years, nothing really happened because everybody was like, okay, that's, all cool. There's a lot of time. And now it's like we're halfway there, and you can see now the pressure starts from the governmental side as well, because we actually have to be minus 50% in all industries in 5 years. So you can see more money being put into there, more specific laws being put into there. You have like carbon measurement per square meter. If you go over that, you get taxes on it. So they're introducing now every year like more and more like regulations. So they are actually really much like starting to kick in and change industries. And honestly, nothing big's gonna happen in that case. That old materials are moving out and new materials are moving in. It's just about actually the push from the regulatory side. It's all happening and it's possible.
That's from a company perspective, I see very clearly that it's the policy push really pushes the market for you, and it kind of opens the market for you. From an investor perspective, you're in the business of risks, right? What is the most important thing that the policies can do to support your investments into a sector, be it sustainable packaging, sustainable materials? Is it reducing technology risk by subsidizing early stage technologies? Is it market risk by creating new markets? What kind of risk do you want the policymakers to kind of mitigate for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first thing I would start by saying, yes, the investment business, especially in venture capital, is meant to cover that tail end risks in innovation and new startups. But I also want to put it out there that the real people taking a lot of day-to-day upfront risks are the founders, right? These are the people taking risks themselves, building businesses, hiring people, keeping livelihoods and jobs. Now, the second point is, how does regulation inform our risk profile, how we measure risks? It really depends on a few things: industry and specific industries, and also in some ways the operating culture of industries, and that sometimes segregates or separates by region, parts of the world. So, for example, the European Green Deal plan was out 5 years ago, and over the recent years, there was more clarity in, say, like the battery ecosystem or the circularity ecosystem, right? The EU battery passport creates very clear guidelines on what metrics need to be reported at the birth of a cell all the way to the disposal of a battery at end of life. And every few years, there's increase in requirements of what needs to be reported. And in fact, the percentage of circular materials that goes into new batteries. So as these things progress, it does help. But one thing to realize is always a collaboration between industry and regulators. If regulators don't understand industry well enough on the ground to recognize what is possible, not just scientifically but also economically, then the regulations may only serve to delay progress because there's so much pushbacks on what cannot be delivered economically that revisions need to be made. And that's something that I think, again, different regions can learn from each other. I think, for example, in China, going back to the same battery industry, there's a lot of learnings that come simply from people learning not in innovation, but in perfecting manufacturing processes. So if they, going back to the topic of efficiency, they've managed through multiple failures across more than one organization and startup and scale up to learn manufacturing perfection, to therefore get efficient manufacturing at high quality and therefore win in this ecosystem globally. They're the biggest suppliers of high quality cells in the world now, right? Which is a great proof of point. Again, different regions do things differently, but we can also learn from each other.
That's amazing, and I think this is really where our cooperation could find fruits, right? What I hear a lot from Estonian clean tech companies is that Singapore is an amazing door to the whole of Southeast Asia, right? And Gillu and Carl, you're both representing clean tech companies, you know, getting to know the Singaporean market and the markets next to here that are even bigger ones. Where do you see the synergies? You know, what do we bring to each other? Because in each cooperation, we need to kind of see what everyone gets out of it. What do you want to bring here, and what do you want to find from here?
Well, the first thing I arrived here was that the city is just like so beautifully. It's so beautiful. Everything's thought through. You have amazing like buildings over here where you have like 10 stories in between to build a park in between, even though your land costs millions. So it's very holistic thinking about like city planning and sustainability and what we heard about as well. So I think like Singapore is already super aligned regarding like sustainability and making like a huge strides. So I wouldn't say that we are like maybe bringing here like let's say like new knowledge or it will be like there and back. I would just say that it's we are seriously considering like as a stepping door for Asia like Singapore, and it's very well known in all of Europe. So if we're talking about like expanding to Asian markets, everybody's saying that okay, then you're probably going to do your HQ in Singapore and then start to expand from there. So there's really nothing like much to talk about like regarding this. That I will probably be coming here much more in the upcoming future as we start to scale.
Shared ambition, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, very similar minded, I would say.
Yeah, I would add that Singapore is also small like Estonia. So you have to be very export oriented, obviously. Your world's your oyster, as they say. But I have learned during my visit here that Singapore is also very agile at doing business. Although, in the end of the day, people want to work with people, so it's about building relationships. If you want to do business here, and I think people are very nice here, so and very open to do business, like Estonians.
I think it's a very nice place where to kind of wrap up our discussion, where we started with, you know, seeking efficiency and resources and energy, and we just came to the fact that, you know, the first thing you need to do that is really, you know, we already have innovation, we have sustainable ambition, We just need to start collaborating and creating those human contacts because we have everything to work together. We're already moving in the same direction. So on that note, I would like to thank all of the panelists, Chia, Gillu, Karl. Thank you so much for this discussion. And thank you for the audience for joining us. I really hope that this sparked some ideas for Singapore-Estonia collaboration on energy and resource efficiency as well. Thank you and have a nice afternoon.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you so much. And to our panelists, can we do a group photo, please? Let's have everybody together for a group photo. Come together. We're all good friends here, right? Yes, indeed. Lots of smiles. Once again, big thank you to our friends from Estonia for this fantastic panel discussion. Thank you for joining us to Switch once again. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up day 2 at the global stage right here at Switch 2025. Hope you guys had a great afternoon, morning, however long you've been here for. We have day 3 starting tomorrow, 10 a.m. right here about investing into the Singapore ecosystem. What that's all about, you're going to find out here tomorrow at 10 a.m. right here at the global stage at Switch 2025. But we'd like to ask you to scan the QR code to download the Switch app to find out all about our speakers, what's coming up tomorrow, and so forth. And then also, we got another QR code as well, because we want to hear your feedback. I want to hear what you guys think about today's sessions, today's panels, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And also, what do you think about the global stage as a whole? We'd like to hear from you as well with that. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, have a great afternoon, great evening, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the global stage at Switch 2025.